I only have one more trait to cover that is within the realm of charity, but it's a very significant one. And if you look at the table that I sent, I put out a lot of traits between the two. Some of them are repetitive, so I'm only covering 15 in depth, 15 traits of the believers versus 15 traits of the hypocrites. But some of them are repetitive. They're sort of covered within the context of another one. But within charity, we talked about a generous spirit. We talked about loving the poor, loving those that you give to. The difference between the Ansar and the hypocrites. يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. They love those who migrated towards them. It's very interesting, by the way, because the Prophet ﷺ used to ask for hubb al-masakin. He used to say, "Oh Allah, grant me the love of the poor. Allow me to love the poor." Because if you see the poor as, or someone who is poor, the poor as in a category of people, but if you see people that are fuqara masakin, if you see them as a means of taking your stuff rather than giving you good deeds in the hereafter, then naturally you're going to develop resentment and enmity towards them. But if you start seeing those people that have less than you as being equally deserving of humanity and dignity as you, as well as a source of great reward and enrichment, not a source of deprivation in your life, then you actually start to love them. Okay? So you see them as being deserving of having the same karamatul insan, the same type of human dignity. Like the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, no one of you believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. So you love for them what you love for yourself. And on top of that, they're not coming to take my stuff. They're actually sources of great enrichment in my life and in my akhirah in the greater sense. So there's a beautiful saying from Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. I believe he narrates this from Fudail rahimahullah, that when he used to see people that were in need, or someone would come to him to ask, he would say, "Welcome to the one who comes to give me for my hereafter without taking anything back from me. Because you take nothing from my afterlife, which is what I'm actually focused on. All you do is you enrich me." And so there is a sense of love towards them. Yeah.
How do you counter the rhetoric when, like, this whole idea of like, all right, you give to the people who are in need. They're not here to take from you, but then, there's other people and with agendas or fears that are like, hey, you know what? It's us versus them, and they're here to take X, Y, and Z. Like, how do you counter that?
So to counter it, you have to shift people's entire perspective on life. And this is one of those paradigm shifts that you seek in a society. If the world is all that we have, if this life is all that we have, then the goal is to live your own fullest version of life, and anything that is going to detract from the fullness of this life is an enemy, right? As a hindrance to me living my fullest life. Hence, individualism is deeply married to the idea of only one life, right? So when you start to see that this is only a stop on the way, and that this stop on the way is consequential, eternally consequential to what the rest of the way looks like, then that sort of shifts your idea of consumption and reward, right? What's actually rewarding to you. Now, on a societal level, it's really interesting because the Prophet ﷺ, when he says, no one of you believes, لا يؤمن أحدكم, no one of you believes until they love for their brother what they love for themselves. It's not talking about just the Muslims, your brother in humanity. That's significant. Why? Because in the realm of charity, in the realm of giving, okay, you are not just giving and caring for the Muslim, right? The Prophet ﷺ was a mercy to all of the worlds. رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. A mercy to the worlds, not just a mercy to the Muslims. And in fact, that concept as it plays out within this hadith is that even the scholars mention this in terms of salvation. You love for your brother in humanity what you love for yourself. Hence you give him da'wah. You love for the hereafter. You love for your brother what you love for yourself. Hence you serve them for their welfare in this life. And so that's the paradigm shift, that you don't see people as opponents in your share of dunya. You see them as equal partners in your elevation in the akhirah, in the hereafter. And that changes everything. لا يشاحح أهل الدنيا في دنياهم. Do not compete with the people of this world over their world. And if all you see in people are competitors over your worldly resources, of course you're going to turn them into enemies. And I think that's where you sort of draw the, or you draw from the depth of a statement like Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz Malcolm X rahimahullah, when he says Islam has the solution for racism. He didn't just say because it has a nice quote, a nice hadith that you can implement, because he deeply experienced what oneness looks like in Hajj, right? Like, this is a deep experience. This completely reshaped how I view God and how I view people, right? So if America took the time to learn Islam, not because they could take one hadith or take one nice story, if America took the time to learn the depth of Islam and what Islam has to offer in Tawheed, in monotheism, and the consequences of Tawheed, the consequences of monotheism and what it does to unify people, then it would solve the problem of racism, because it solved the other isms in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And so in that time, of course, it was class. Tribalism, which is deeply connected to classism, has some racism as well. Colorism, not as much as the tribal elements and the classism at the time of the Prophet ﷺ specifically, but it was a factor that we do see as well.
But on the other hand, you have people like the leader of the Munafiqeen, like their whole outward thing is about, hey, we're trying to unify folks. Right. And it's like this, like, why can't we be a pluralistic society? Kind of.
All right, so you're going to make me get really political now. Okay. Fascists unify people around the concept of us first.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that all? Yeah. Like if you study European fascism, you study American fascism, right? It's us first. It's that, I can't take care of anyone else because we got to take care of ourselves first. You're making me get political. So we put a ton of money in being deeply involved in the rest of the world, trillions of dollars, but that's in bombing them for our interests. And then when we create destruction around the world and havoc around the world, and people come to our shores, right, seeking refuge from the chaos that we manufacture, we say, no, us first. What about we don't have enough jobs, we don't have enough food, we don't have enough education, that kind of stuff. Well, you would have put that money into that stuff before destroying the rest of the world. That's what a first policy looks like, right? So even the Prophet ﷺ took this idea of loving your people, like love your qawm, love your tribe. Love your tribe. There's nothing wrong with loving your tribe. But don't love them to oppression. Okay? Unsur akhaka. Zaliman aw mazlum. Support your brother, whether he's an oppressor or he's oppressed. Ya Rasulullah, wait a minute. We get when he's oppressed. How do we support him when he's an oppressor? Prophet ﷺ says, stop him from harming. Stop him from oppressing. That's a powerful notion, because the Prophet ﷺ recognizes that people are always going to have something that offers an extra layer, an extra bond amongst them, and people are naturally going to cling towards those things. So he reshaped the identity in Medina around being Ansar. You are the Ansar. You are the supporters. You're the helpers. You're a people that have been honored with this identity.